There's a $3 ingredient sitting in your kitchen cabinet right now. It has been there your entire life. And the $8 billion fire safety industry has spent the last 60 years making absolutely sure you never once connected that cabinet to the emergency that kills 2,500 Americans every year inside their own homes. That ingredient stops any fire from spreading for up to 20 minutes on contact. Not slows it, stops it. Applied to wood, fabric, or paper. In under 5 minutes, it creates a chemical barrier that flame cannot penetrate. No pressurized canister to replace, no pin to pull in a panic, no expiration date, no annual inspection. Just a powder, water, and a reaction so effective that British firefighters applied it to wooden buildings across London for 80 years before anyone thought to sell you an alternative. I have been digging through buried fire safety research for months, and this one is the most consequential vault I have opened. Because house fires are not random, they are survivable, and the window between ignition and catastrophic spread is almost always the same. Between 4 and 8 minutes, that window is where this knowledge lives. A $3 kitchen ingredient applied to the surfaces around you before a fire starts gives that window back to you. The $8 billion safety industry built its entire revenue model on selling you a device for after the fire starts. Nobody profits from teaching you how to stop it spreading before you ever need the device. This is the story of sodium bicarbonate and salt. The forgotten fire retardant system that 19th century British firefighters used to protect timber buildings across London, that the USDA tested in forest fire suppression operations in 1942, and that the safety industry reclassified as a home remedy the moment pressurized extinguishers became profitable enough to replace it. Welcome to the Blueprint Secrets. This is where we crack open the vaults the safety industry locks tight. Subscribe now and hit the bell. Because this vault is one of the most important ones we have ever opened. Let me take you back to 1824, London. The city is built almost entirely of timber, coal-heated and candle-lit. Fire is the most feared threat in urban life. The London Fire Engine Establishment, the world's first professional fire brigade, is documenting something its engineers have noticed across dozens of building fires that season. Certain buildings burn more slowly than others, not because of their construction, because of how their owners maintained them. A Scottish fire brigade consultant named James Braidwood begins investigating. What he finds is not a new material. It is a mixture that farmers in rural Scotland have used for generations on hay storage and thatch roofs. A solution of common salt and water applied directly to organic surfaces before fire season. Braidwood tests it systematically. Identical wooden boards, treated and untreated, exposed to the same flame. The treated boards char, the untreated boards ignite. The difference in flame spread is not marginal. It is the difference between containment and catastrophe. He publishes his findings in 1830 in a manual titled On the Construction of Fire Engines and Apparatus. He recommends salt solution treatment for all exposed timber in densely built urban areas. The manual becomes the foundational reference for fire brigade practice across Britain and influences early American fire departments. For the next 80 years, salt-based fire retardant application is standard practice in British building maintenance. The chemistry Braidwood observed was sodium-ion interference with the combustion chain reaction. When sodium chloride is heated to fire temperature, it releases ions that interrupt the radical chain reaction sustaining flame. The fire loses its ability to propagate through the material. Sodium bicarbonate, added by Braidwood's successors by the 1870s, releases carbon dioxide directly at the flame surface when heated, displacing the oxygen combustion requires. 2 ingredients, 2 separate suppression mechanisms. Applied together, they address both the chemistry and the oxygen supply of fire at the same time. Now let me show you what controlled science confirms about this mechanism, because this is not 19th century guesswork or folk fire prevention. It is documented combustion chemistry that the fire retardant industry uses at industrial scale in every treated piece of lumber, every flame-resistant fabric, and every fire-rated building material sold today. The fire retardant industry is a $4 billion annual market. Every product in it works through one of 2 mechanisms: intumescent chemistry, which causes material to swell and char when heated, creating an insulating barrier, or halogen and phosphorus-based chemistry, which interrupts the radical chain reaction of combustion the same way sodium ions do. Both mechanisms are present in the $3 kitchen combination. Salt provides the radical chain interruption. Bicarbonate provides CO2 displacement. And the char layer that forms on treated wood when exposed to flame provides the intumescent barrier. 3 mechanisms, one $3 combination. A 1942 USDA Forest Service field study tested salt and bicarbonate solutions as emergency fire retardants on pine and fir timber during wildfire suppression operations in the Pacific Northwest. Treated timber showed flame spread rates reduced by 60 to 75% compared to untreated timber in identical fire conditions. The study was filed as a wartime emergency resource report and never adapted for residential application or consumer publication. A 2003 study in the journal Fire and Materials tested sodium bicarbonate on cellulose-based materials, the category that includes wood, paper, cotton, and most household textiles. At a surface concentration achievable with a standard spray bottle, sodium bicarbonate reduced peak heat release rate by 43% and delayed ignition by an average of 4.2 minutes across all tested materials. In a house fire, 4.2 minutes is the difference between a contained room fire and a fully involved structure, between a family that exits safely and one that does not. Now here's where the story takes the turn that should genuinely make you angry. Because the fire safety industry knows exactly how fire retardant chemistry works. Every major manufacturer of fire-rated building materials uses sodium and phosphorus-based chemistry as the active ingredient in their products. The mechanism is not proprietary, it is basic combustion science. What is proprietary is the delivery format and the brand name printed on the canister. In 1947, the first pressurized dry chemical fire extinguisher was commercially introduced to the American residential market. The active suppression agent inside that extinguisher was sodium bicarbonate, the same compound sitting in your kitchen cabinet, pressurized, branded, packaged in a red canister, sold for $30 and requiring professional inspection every year and replacement every 12 years. Generating recurring revenue from the exact same chemistry that costs $1 per box at every grocery store on the continent. The National Fire Protection Association publishes residential fire safety guidelines referenced by every insurance company, building inspector, and fire department in the United States. Those guidelines specify extinguisher placement, inspection schedules, and device specifications in precise detail. They contain no guidance on passive fire retardant pretreatment of exposed surfaces using materials a homeowner already owns. Not because passive treatment is ineffective, because passive treatment generates no product sales, no inspection revenue, no replacement cycle, and no brand loyalty. The global fire safety equipment market is valued at $8 billion annually. It depends on one belief, that fire protection requires a device. That belief is maintained through building codes written with industry input, insurance requirements aligned with product specifications, and 60 years of safety messaging that frames fire protection exclusively as a reactive tool you reach for after ignition. Nobody in that system profits from teaching you to treat the surfaces around you before the fire starts. Here is what genuinely surprised me when I traced where this knowledge survived outside of the commercial safety industry. The U.S. Forest Service still uses sodium and bicarbonate-based slurry as its primary aerial fire retardant in wildfire suppression. The iconic red retardant dropped from aircraft onto wildfire perimeters is a phosphate and sodium compound working on the identical chemical principle as the kitchen mixture. The Forest Service has used it continuously since the 1950s. The residential application of the same chemistry was never promoted to homeowners. The theatrical and film industry uses professional fire retardant sprays on every set where practical fire effects are used. The active chemistry in those professional products is sodium bicarbonate and ammonium phosphate. Identical mechanism to the kitchen combination at 40 times the price per treatment. Film production safety manuals. Document application rates that match what controlled studies confirm for residential materials. Wooden boat builders have maintained salt and bicarbonate pretreatment for timber above the waterline as standard practice for over a century. It disappeared from mainstream home building guidance at exactly the same time pressurized extinguisher marketing reached full saturation in the residential market. I tested this myself. Applied a standard salt and bicarbonate solution to 2 identical pieces of untreated pine board. Left one untreated as a control. Allowed both to dry for 48 hours. Then exposed both to an identical flame source at the same distance for the same duration. The untreated board ignited and sustained flame within 8 seconds. The treated board charred at the contact point, and flame did not propagate beyond that point across a 40-second exposure. The char layer the treatment created was visible, consistent, and exactly what the 2003 Fire and Materials study described. If you have made it this far, you now understand fire chemistry better than most people who have ever purchased an extinguisher. Subscribe and share this with someone who needs it. Stay with me because the practical guide is next. Here's exactly what you do starting this weekend. You need 2 ingredients at every grocery store, plain table salt and plain baking soda. Total cost for a full treatment of your highest risk surfaces under $3. Combined, they address fire spread through 3 mechanisms: sodium ion radical chain interruption, CO2 displacement at the flame surface, and a char layer that blocks heat transfer into the material beneath. Dissolve 4 tablespoons of salt and 4 tablespoons of baking soda in 1 quart of warm water. Stir until both are fully dissolved. Pour into a standard spray bottle. Total production cost, approximately 40 cents. Apply the solution to every high-risk surface in your home. Focus on areas within 2 meters of primary ignition sources. Kitchen cabinets adjacent to your stove. The wall surface behind your stove, curtains near cooking areas, the underside of your staircase if it is wood, exposed timber in a basement or garage. Spray until the surface is visibly damp. Allow it to dry completely. The treatment is invisible once dry. No residue, no odor, no discoloration on most surfaces. Reapply every 6 months or after the surface has been washed. The sodium compounds remain in the surface material until physically removed by water or abrasion. Between applications, the protection is passive and continuous. One honest note, this treatment is a fire spread retardant, not a suppression system. It does not replace a smoke detector or fire extinguisher. What it does is extend the window between ignition and catastrophic spread. 4 extra minutes to reach a child's room. 4 extra minutes for occupants to exit. 4 extra minutes for emergency services to arrive. That is what this knowledge gives you, and it costs $3. Think about the full arc of what we just uncovered. In 1824, James Braidwood documented salt-based fire retardant application across London's timber buildings and published the method as standard fire brigade guidance. In 1942, the USDA confirmed 60 to 75% reduction in flame spread, using the same chemistry in wildfire conditions. In 2003, a peer-reviewed study confirmed a 43% reduction in heat release rate and a 4.2-minute ignition delay on household materials. The science never changed. The chemistry never stopped working. And yet today, the primary public message about residential fire safety is to check the pin on your extinguisher and replace it on schedule. Every one of those recommendations generates product revenue. Every one addresses the fire after it starts. Not one mentions the $3 treatment that slows the fire before your extinguisher ever leaves the wall mount. They did not suppress this knowledge. They built a safety industry around a different question. Not how do you slow a fire from spreading, but what do you reach for after one starts? Those are not the same question. And the industry spent 60 years making sure you only ever heard the second one. The knowledge did not die. It was waiting. In Braidwood's 1830 manual, in a USDA wartime field report, in a 2003 combustion journal, in the aerial retardant tanks of every Forest Service aircraft that has flown over a wildfire, in the logs of wooden boat builders who never stopped doing what worked. I want to be straight with you. The next vault connects to this one, same category. A different household threat the safety industry addresses with a device when a $2 solution addresses it at the source. I will open it soon. Make sure you are subscribed. Before you go, one question. What safety product have you been told you need that you suspect has a permanent alternative the industry never mentioned? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. The best answer becomes an upcoming vault. It has already happened on this channel. If this vault opens something for you, subscribe and share it with someone whose home needs this protection. Every share preserves what the industry spent 60 years making invisible. The next vault connects directly to this one. And what is inside weighs even heavier.